Welcome everyone. I think you can hear us. So if you are joining, we'll give everybody a few minutes to get started, but go ahead and find the chat and let us know where you're from and your favorite thing to do outdoors. Where's my chat?
Swimming. Hey, Sanvi. Catch a can. Hide and seek. I love it. True adventure racer, Emma.
Yes.
Oh, San Diego. Sophia. I'm in California too. Anchorage. She loves to play. Me too, Ruth. I play as much as I can. Berkeley. Play with the dogs. Bike and hike. Love it, Zeta. Have fun. Oh, Lillian. Me too. I'm all into the fun. Lee, skiing. Rock on. And hiking and snorkeling. That's so fun. Ooh, Eagle River, Arkansas. Daniela? Oh, Livia.
Eagle River, Alaska.
Oh, Alaska. True California right there.
No
Karen
worries.
likes to sleep. Karen, it's a very important aspect of life. Fishing, Juneau. Roblox, whoop, whoop. My daughter's laughing at that one. Cross country running, Daniela, awesome. Oh my gosh, Florida. Delaney loves whitewater rafting. That's one of the events in Eco Challenge. Game, word. Camping. I know, I love camping too. I love campfires and s'mores and cocoa.
Me too.
Oh my gosh, we have watched many seasons of the Eco Challenge. Awesome. Have you watched the most recent season? Camping. Sweet. Healy, Alaska.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah? Is that far away?
Well, it's north of Anchorage. We don't always see lots of girls from Healy, so that's really cool.
Awesome. Go-kart riding? Yes. Oh my goodness. It's been a while since I've been go-kart riding. I feel like you're not allowed, like you can't do that right now.
So as girls are getting signed in, welcome everybody. We have more people joining, which is fantastic. We are currently in webinar mode, so don't worry that you can't see your own video and that you're muted. Please use the chat to share things with us, which is what is happening right now. And then we will get started with sharing some stories, and there will be time later where we unmute you so that you can ask all sorts of questions.
Awesome.
So we'll give another minute for girls to get signed in. Fantastic.
And anyone who's popping on, people are saying where they're from and their favorite thing to do outside, so I can get to know a little bit about you guys, and it makes me feel better. Hey. Oh my gosh, roller skating. I love roller skating. My daughter is nodding right now. I love roller skating. I used to skate all the time when I was in middle school, and then they closed the rink. To the beach. We have a lot of Cali girls. Ride bikes and read books. Me too, yo. Skateboarding. I just got a longboard. Awesome. Memphis, Tennessee. Sweet. So fun. It's really fun to hear where you guys are from and the things that you're into. Thank you for sharing. I love it.
Very cool.
Soccer. Awesome, girl.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to unshare my screen. So we should come back to video here. But Sonja, you should still have the chat off to the side, hopefully.
I so see the chat right there.
Perfect. All right, well, we can get started and we might have more girls join us as we get going here. So I just want to introduce Sonja, who is an Eco Challenge adventure racer. And some of you probably know what that is. Some of you may not, and that is totally okay as well. She is going to tell you all about it, and I'm going to turn it over to her because she is much more interesting to listen to. So here you go, Sonja.
Thank you, Kelly. That's an introduction. I don't know, much more interesting. We'll see. Hi, ladies from all over the US. I'm super excited to be here. I have a feeling many of you have maybe been on Zoom for a lot of today. So I would like my time with you to be one of the more fun Zooms you've had today, because I know my daughter had some not fun Zooms today. So if you get a chance, throw into the chat box where you're from or what you like to do outside. My name is Sonja Wieck, and I'm an adventure racer and an Ironman triathlete. And what does that mean? Oh my goodness. So let's start with adventure racing. Adventure racing is a sport and an expedition all in one. So it's a race that we do where we combine a lot of different sports together, and we race from point to point across a big swath of land, and we do a whole bunch of different sports while we're doing it. And the course is not laid out for the race. They give you a map and they give you a compass, and someone on your team acts as the navigator for the race, and you race from checkpoint to checkpoint to checkpoint. And sometimes between like checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, you'll be whitewater rafting. And then between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3, you'll be mountain biking. And then 3 to 4, you might be rock climbing or going up fixed ropes. So there's all these different sports that you're going from and to, and you race adventure racing on a team, usually a team of 4 people. And in the biggest adventure race in the world called Eco Challenge, teams of 4 people have to have boys and girls on them. So they could be 3 boys, 1 girl, they could be 3 girls, 1 boy, but there has to be a mix of both. So that's what I do. And I recently competed in a race called Eco Challenge that was on Amazon Prime TV. So if you guys have Amazon Prime shows, you can watch it. It's called The World's Toughest Race, Eco Challenge Fiji. And in that race, we raced across the entire country of Fiji. And we did 10 different sports. We sailed, we stand-up paddleboarded, we trekked and ran, we went up and down fixed ropes, like rappelling and ascending. We whitewater rafted, we mountain biked, we even paddled this raft called a Billy raft, which was made of bamboo that we had to build. What else did we do? There were more sports. I can't even like remember all of them. And we raced for 10 days straight. The clock never stops. So we have to decide if we're going to sleep or not sleep and when we're going to eat. But most of the time we race 24 hours a day for 10 days straight. Kelly, does that kind of explain adventure racing pretty well?
I think so. It's a big adventure, really.
It's really a big adventure. Yeah. So if anyone saw Eco Challenge on TV, I would love for you to give me like a super sweet emoji on your chitty chat. That way I just have an idea if anyone knows about the race at all. And if not, totally cool. It is called World's Toughest Race, Eco Challenge Fiji. So I was a chick who raced for 10 days straight through the wilderness, through the jungle, through the oceans. I navigated for our team. I was our team captain. And I'm a pretty tough chick. And so today Kelly asked me to come on. She wanted me to talk to you guys about toughness and grit. And I don't know, like, I think I'm qualified to do that. But I kind of want to know what toughness and grit really means to you girls. So I thought before I dive in or tell you some of my stories about toughness, about grit, I would love for some of you to, or all of you to, right now for me, think about someone in your life who you think of as tough or gritty. Just get that person in your head. Do you have that person? I just want to know. I'm going to give you like a hot minute. Might be a mom, maybe a sister, maybe an auntie, someone in your head who you're like, oh, super tough, super gritty. And I want you to tell me really quickly in the chat who that person is and why you think they're tough. I'm going to give you time. I might do a dance for you.
While they're thinking, we had a question, what the heck is grit? Do you have a good answer for that?
I have a great answer for that. Grit is, the definition of grit is like junk that gets into your shoes and is rough and abrasive and sandy. That's like the grit in your shoes. But when we talk about being gritty, we're really talking about being tough, sticking to things and being hard to get off. We're not smooth. We're tough, we're gritty, we're coarse, we're rough and tumble. And that's what I think of grit. Grit is like when you just really dig your heels in and you're maybe facing something where quitting might be easy or getting started might be really hard. And so to have grit means that we're going to have that inner strength inside of ourselves that you can't wipe us off. You can't get rid of us. You can't clean us here. We're gonna tackle it. We're gonna stay stuck to it. That's what I think of as grit.
I love that definition.
Can't wipe me away. I'm looking through your toughness. I just want to understand a little bit. People talking about climbing mountains, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, running marathons, writing books. I love this. Someone who will stop at nothing to convince you of something until you accept an idea or a person. Someone who doesn't give up. Someone who's smart. I love this. Working all day and then finding time to help me and my sister, right? So there's this sense of like going above and beyond, being extra gritty. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Okay. So when it comes to toughness and grit, what I get a lot of questions when people find out what I do and they find out all this crazy stuff I've done, racing for 10 days straight, not sleeping for mostly 10 days straight, dealing with a whole bunch of boys who are constantly trying to get lost. Where does it come from? And I wanted to tell you guys a few stories. I like to tell stories, and I think you'd like to hear a few. So I'm going to launch into one of my stories about toughness as a way to kind of give you an idea of how I think about toughness, where it comes from, and how we develop it. So I want to tell you a story about when I almost quit Eco Challenge. And it was almost at the end of the race. So I had been racing for 8 days straight with this team of very smelly boys at that point. And I had a moment, we had just come out of a camp. So every couple days we got to enter into this camp. And when we rolled into camp, we had a guy to kind of feed us and help us. And I would get a new set of maps and I would have to sit down and figure out where we were headed for the next section of the race. So camps were kind of tough for me because the boys would sleep and I would figure out how to deal with the maps. And when I was done with that, we would repack our bags, get more food, get our bikes ready, and we'd pull out of camp. And the very last camp we rolled out, and I remember us all thinking, that's it, we're good. We're gonna finish this race. No one thought we could, but we're gonna go for it. So we roll out of camp and I noticed very quickly it was really hot. It was about 90 degrees. We're in Fiji, we're in the jungle. I'm riding my bike. I am riding up this humongous hill that I can barely ride up. And all of a sudden I start having this thought in my head. And my thought was, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I started getting really hot inside. I felt like I was having heat stroke. I wasn't warmed up. I was really tired from racing for 8 days straight. And I kept thinking in my head, I don't think I can do this. And I mean, has anyone had this thought in their head when they're doing something really hard? I don't think I can do this. 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 And before I knew it, I started hyperventilating and having almost like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I had to get off my bike. I had to sit down. Here I am 8 days into this race. We're so close. I sat down in the middle of the jungle in the mud. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I kept cycling it. My teammates, they came back and they're like, what's going on? Why are we? And I just in my head thought, I think this is it. I don't think I can go any further. It's been 8 days. I'm really tired. I'm really hungry. I'm really just depleted. And one of my teammates got me up and he took my shoulders and he said, Sonja, I can push your bike for you and I can carry your pack, but I can't change the thoughts in your head. And it was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, he knows what I'm thinking. He knows that I am sitting here thinking in my head, I don't think I can do this. And the only way he knows, I didn't tell him, but somehow he knows. And he's called me out on it. And so I got back on my bike and I started pedaling and I thought to myself, well, what can I change my thoughts to now that he's called me out? And I was like, I can do this. And I was like, I don't believe that. I don't think I can change it to that. And so I kept thinking, and I thought, my core body temperature, the temperature inside my body that was hot, I could say to myself, my core body temperature is fine. And that was a different thought than I don't think I can do this. It was a thought that was true. And so I thought, that I believe my core body temperature is fine. So I started pedaling my bike and I started saying, my core body temperature is fine. My core body temperature is fine. My core body temperature is fine. And suddenly I started riding a little bit faster. My core body temp is fine. My core body temp is fine. My core body temp is fine. Within 20 minutes, I was riding at the front of our pack with our number one rider with a smile on my face. And I thought later about this moment because this was a moment when I really thought I wasn't being tough. But when I look back, I realized when we see people being tough, those are the moments that we look at. We look at the moments where they're in the mud, sitting down. It looks like they're about to quit. And then they get up and they go again. That's toughness. That's grit, right? But where does that actually come from? The only thing that changed in my environment was it the weather? No, it was still 90 degrees. Was it the hills of Fiji? Nope, still hilly. Was I more rested? No. Did I get more sleep or more food? Nope. Only one thing changed between me being in the road, sitting on my bottom, wanting to quit, and me being in the front of our pack, leading with a smile. The only thing that changed was the thought, I don't think I can do this, and the thought, my core body temperature is fine. So my lesson, this is my one lesson, my big takeaway is find a thought that you believe that works. When we're having those negative thoughts, our insides always dictate our outsides. So if we're having outsides that we don't like we're sitting on the ground and we're not getting anything done and we're about to quit something, we have to back it up and we have to think about what's going on our insides. And it's not about finding a thought that says, I can do this if you don't believe that. It's just about finding a thought that you believe that yields a better outside. So it just has to be something that's true, and it helps to be kind of neutral and not negative. And so that was when it comes to toughness, that's one of my hacks. Find a thought that you believe that works. Kelly, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, good.
I think it's a big jump to say, I can do this from I can't do this. And that's not realistic.
It's not realistic. No, nope. And I like to try ones on now when I'm having thoughts that aren't getting me what I want. Like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I don't think I can do this. I don't want to do, all of those. I will find like a medium one. Like, I really love my purple blanket. I enjoy the color pink on Wednesdays. It doesn't necessarily have to even relate to the situation, but it's enough to get your mind out of the negativity and just onwards. So I want the girls to know that. Do they want another story? Let's see. I think they might want another story, but okay, I have two to choose from. I can talk about the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, or I can talk about the extremely cold water in Fiji that I had to swim in. So Hawaii or Fiji? That's my question. Fiji, okay, we got some Fiji. Fiji. Cold water. Oh, one for cold water, Fiji. Okay, Fiji. One wants Hawaii. Oh, Fiji's winning. What do you think, Kelly? Fiji?
I think Fiji's winning. You might also have to show where Fiji is on a map. I don't know that everybody knows where Fiji is.
Fiji, everyone, they know the water. Like Fiji's really far away. If you go to California and you start swimming, like maybe from Disneyland, go from Disneyland to the beach and then start swimming in the ocean and swim like a third of the way around the world, you'll hit Fiji. It'll take you like 4 years maybe to get there by swimming. Okay, everyone wants to hear about Fiji. Okay, so those of you who've seen the race on TV will notice that there was a moment where we had to swim in some really cold water, but I'll give you the background. So we have been racing for 5 days at this point, and I had fallen and torn a ligament in my knee. So I was a little like nervous in my head, just giving you some context. And we had left a camp and we were doing this section of the race called the Vua Falls and Pools. And I'll tell you about this section of the race because it's pretty epic. So this is what the course is. We have to trek in a river, and this river has slimy, slippery rocks. And so we've got to do this rock hop dance. So we're going to do the rock hop dance for about 6 hours. Rock hop dance, fall off a rock, get back on the rock, get scraped up, get bruised, like rock hop dance. The rock hop dance is going to lead us to Vua Falls, which is about 1,500 feet of climbing. So that's like taller than the Empire State Building, if you know, like taller than the tallest building, you know. It's about that high, and there's all these ropes that they've set up on it. So we're gonna put our climbing gear on these ropes, and we're gonna use our hands and our legs to do what's called jumaring, which is like, we're gonna climb the rope. So we climb the rope, that takes about 6.5 hours. And then we've got about 12 hours to 15 hours after that, where we're going to be back in the river. We're going to be climbing rocks. And then sometimes all the rocks are going to go away and we have to swim. And sometimes we have to swim like maybe 5 minutes. And then other times we have to swim like maybe 20 minutes. And then we'll get out, climb over some more rocks, swim some more. So you would think it's Fiji. This is like, it's tropical. There's going to be, you know, some juice and beverages. No, we are in what's called the Highlands of Fiji for this entire part of the race. And the Highlands of Fiji are kind of like being in like upper Colorado, like very cold and windy and rainy and not what you would think of as like a Fijian tropical beach. So we get headed into this section of the course. And we've heard from other teams that there are all sorts of teams stranded in this section with hypothermia and really bad foot infections, jungle rot in their foot, or teams that are just not able to move forward because they're so tired and exhausted. And as we start moving through the falls, we get to the falls at night, and I look up there at all the ropes, and everyone at the bottom tells us, don't go at night. It's too scary. And in my mind, I was like, well, we can't get lost on the ropes. And so we're going to do that at night because it's good to do things at night where you can't get lost. So our team went ahead and got on the ropes and went through the ropes all night long, got out of the ropes and got into the pools. And the pools were what I found out later to be the crux of the race. It's where all the teams who were still in the race started getting hypothermia. They couldn't stay warm. They had been wet and tired and hungry for so long. And we get into these pools and I'm swimming and I turn around and I see the boys are really shivering and I'm swimming and I'm thinking to myself, we're triathletes. We're used to swimming and biking and running. That's our sports. We're triathletes. But here we are swimming and we're not doing very well. The boys are scared, and our backpacks, we've got backpacks on. We're not used to swimming with backpacks and helmets and climbing harnesses on. So these backpacks start to ride up our head and kind of push our head into the water with our helmets on. And so we've got like a little bit of space with our backpack pushing our head down. And I just had this thought to myself, we're swimmers and swimmers swim. And so I took my backpack and I took it off and I flipped it upside down. And I took the waist strap. You know, you have a waist strap on your backpack. Now, instead of the waist strap being on my waist and my backpack being up here, I flipped it upside down. I put my waist strap on, and now my backpack was down instead of up. And the minute I did that, my backpack kind of made the back half of my body float. And I was able to put my head in the water and start swimming. So when the show aired, they showed all these teams who were shivering and quitting and doggy paddling. And then they showed our team, our Ironman team, and we were swimming because we had thought of this crazy ingenious way to flip our backpacks around. And so a lot of people look at that and they send me messages and they say, Sonja, you were so tough. You had so much grit in the water. Oh my gosh, you led your team and you thought of that backpack trick. And I really started thinking, was I tough? What was it about that? And here's my lesson to you. Sometimes when things are really bad, you have to figure out how it's good for you. So I knew the water was cold. I knew that everyone was going to have to go through this cold water. But I started to think, we're swimmers. So if this is cold and hard for everybody else, that's good for me because I'm a swimmer. I'm used to swimming in cold water. I'm used to navigating. And I thought to myself, when it really comes down to toughness, when you look around, if it's writing a paper or getting up to present your art, something that a lot of people have to do, if you can find the way to say, this is really hard for everybody, but because it's hard for everybody, that's good for me. That will enable toughness to come right seeping out of you. People will see your actions as tough. You may not feel tough at the time, but if you can flip it around and say, oh, that's hard for everybody, but this is actually good for me. It's going to be hard. I'm going to have to be tough. I'm going to have grit, but it's good for me. That will allow it to come up and out. Kelly, does that make sense?
It does. That's a really different way of looking at things. I love it.
Yep. How is the bad good for you? How's the bad good for you? Just for you, not everybody else. All right. Let's see. How are we doing on time? Do we have time for one more?
We are good on time. We have a couple of quick questions that will help with some context. First of all, what year was it? When did this race happen?
Great question. So we raced Eco Challenge Fiji in September of 2019. And crazy story about that, we were not, because the race is navigated by map and compass, we were not allowed to bring any electronics. So we went through the whole 10 days, no phones, no photos, no nothing, but we had all these cameramen following us the whole time. So there were 550 people on the production team, the team that was making the TV show about the race. So there were cameras everywhere, and helicopters that would fly by, and Bear Grylls would hang out of the helicopter and cheer for us sometimes. But we went home from Fiji with not a single photo of our entire experience. And we had to wait until August 10th of 2020 to see any footage of the race. So yeah, we all started thinking it was just a big dream.
That's interesting. It's fun to sometimes put that technology away and just be in the moment.
It was, yeah. We did all have the moment we had to turn in our phones. And the minute we had to turn in our phones, all of us were like, okay, it's gone. Like, now we're racing. Like it was a deep sigh, but then afterwards it was hard to not have to see everything with your eyes. And in today's day and age, every time we're like, oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous, we're like to the phone. So to have to see gorgeous things and not be able to take photos of them was really hard sometimes.
Awesome. So a couple questions, and then I think one more story is requested. Did you win the race? Did you sleep at all? And were you ever a Girl Scout?
Oh, It was not a Girl Scout. Did we sleep? Did we win the race? We did not win the race. We finished the race, which was to us winning. We had never done an adventure race. All four of us had never done an adventure race in our life. So we were the underdogs, and a lot of people did not think we would finish, but we finished. We were 34th place, and there were 66 teams in the race. So we felt pretty proud of ourselves. And then did we sleep? We did sleep. There were certain sections of the race called dark out zones. And dark out zones are areas of the race that are super dangerous that they don't want you on at night. And one of those was the whitewater rafting section. Because if you're whitewater rafting and you flip your boat and it's dark out, it's really hard to rescue somebody. So for safety purposes, between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., if you were on a whitewater rafting section, you had to pull your boat to the side and you had to stop movement for 12 hours. So all the good teams, they time it right and they don't hit the dark zone, but we hit the dark zone. So we hit 2 dark zones in the race, which meant we got 2 8-hour sleeps in 10 days. And then we also, at each camp, we took about 3 to 4 hours of sleep in each camp. So 4 times 3 to 4 hours. And that was about it. That was about all the sleep we got.
Wow.
Our team was Team Iron Cowboy.
Awesome.
All right.
How about one more story and then we'll open it up and let girls be unmuted and ask questions.
That sounds good. Okay, so in episode 2 of the show in Fiji, if you watch the show, you're gonna see that I had a humongous meltdown. I lost my bananas. And what did that look like? Okay, it looked like Sonja, that's me, crying on TV, sitting in the front of an ambulance. A moment of going, this is so hard. That was on TV. This is so hard. I had a big emotional letdown happen on day 2. And I want to tell you a story of how it happened, because I think it's really important for girls to know as we're out there doing hard things. One of the things we're always really worried about is that we're going to cry. We're going to cry and we're going to be upset and we're going to get emotional. And the people around us are going to tell us not to do that and to suck it up, buttercup. And I cried and got emotional and on national television, international television. And I want to tell you how I got there. So it was about a day and a half into the race. And this race was really a big, scary thing to start. And so when we started the race, I had to figure out how to get us to all these checkpoints. And I didn't know how I was going to do. I knew I was going to read my map and use my compass, but I hadn't done this before. So I was really nervous and scared and emotional about it all. But I did it. I got us to the first checkpoint, and then from the first to the second, and I was doing pretty good. And we were on these cute little Thalamakau boats out in the middle of the ocean. And on day 2, we had about 9 hours where we were in the boat. That was really, really hard. And I was also our boat's steerswoman. So I sit in the very last seat in the boat and I steer the boat. I paddle and then I steer and then I paddle and I steer, while I also have my compass in my other hand so that I make sure we stay on course, and the map in my lap, compass in my hand, steering blade in my hand. So the first 9 hours of day 2, we hadn't slept at all. So we've been racing for about 38 hours straight. I forgot to eat and drink because I was steering and I was mapping and I was compassing, and it was windy and our boat kept going like this. And so I had to keep steering it to keep it going the right direction. And once I landed on solid earth and we got rid of our boat and our paddles, everything came crashing down on me. And I realized this is really hard. I'm really depleted. I'm really scared and hurt, and I don't know how to make decisions, and I'm really hot. And I started crying. I had this big emotional release on TV. And in the middle of that emotional release, I had to go to this place where I had to realize that all the people in my life who really, really love me don't care if I quit right now. That I am enough inside myself, Sonja, if I finish, if I quit, if I never take another step. And one of those people is my daughter. She's 14. And I remember in that moment sitting in the ambulance with heat stroke, trying to collect myself and figure out what I'm going to do. I remember thinking, if I quit right now, my daughter would be like, yay, 8 more days of Fijian vacation. She just wouldn't care. And that reminded me that no matter what I achieve or what I don't achieve, inside myself, I'm enough. And the minute I realized, oh my gosh, I'm enough if I do this or if I don't do this. Like, yes, I want to finish this race. Yes, I want to be tough. Yes, I want to. But the minute I really realized I am totally okay and good inside of myself, suddenly everything started coming up. I started getting myself back into the world, and the emotions, I started feeling them and processing them and realizing you're enough, you're enough, you're enough. And then the toughness and the grit rose to the top. And I pumped up my paddleboard and I got my bag packed and I found our way to the next checkpoint, and we got on the water and off we went. And I had a great next 3 or 4 days. And I came home and I realized that this is my last note for you guys. If you really want to understand toughness and grit, it always, always, always comes from enoughness inside of ourselves. When we know that we will be okay, if we do or do not do a thing, that the people who love us will still love us, that we will still love ourselves, that's when you can be so tough, because it doesn't matter. It's all for fun. You can fail, you can win. It doesn't matter, because you'll always be okay inside. So if you're struggling with your toughness and you're wishing you had more of it, look inside, remind yourself you are enough, and it will come from that.
That's awesome.
Cool, Callie.
All right. Let's, this is a great question. Did you ever want a hug?
Yes, actually, yes. I wanted a hug, and I wanted somebody to tell me I was doing a good job. That's in Camp 4, I ran into a woman named Heather Bond. She's raced past eco challenges. She's an amazing woman, has written books, like just an idol of mine. And she was working for the race. And I ran into her and she said, Sonja, oh my gosh, you guys are doing it. You're doing so good. And she's like, but it looks like you could need a hug. And I was so beat down and worn down. I got this huge hug from her. And I looked at her and I just said, I need somebody to tell me I'm doing a good job, because nobody's telling me that. And the boys, they just didn't think to tell me I was doing a good job. It's just not how they operated. But yeah, inside I needed a hug, and I needed someone to acknowledge that I was doing it. I was navigating. I was being a team captain. I was getting my team through the race. And it's okay to ask for that from people who are safe. You know, a lot of people want to help. But sometimes you have to ask for a hug, and you have to ask somebody to say, please tell me right now that I'm doing it, or that I'm doing a good job. And she did.
Awesome. Well, I have a couple more questions that were typed in, and then we'll get some live questions from girls too. Would you do it again?
Yes. Hello. Like, absolutely. I think they're trying to put together another race in Patagonia. That's the next country, which is in Argentina at the very bottom of South America. No swimming involved. If they put Patagonia together, I would love to do it. But actually on Sunday, I'm headed up to Bend, Oregon, where I'm going to do a 6-hour race on a team of all women. So that I'm really excited about. No more boys, all women. I think we'll have a lot of fun. So yeah, I am doing more adventure racing. I would do Eco Challenge again. I would love to be a team captain again, be a navigator again. I've got so much more to learn, but I loved the journey.
Awesome. Whose idea was it to compete on Eco Challenge, and why did you choose your team name?
Yes. Okay. So I saw the advertisement and the call for applications to enter the race, and it had all this past Eco Challenge footage in it. So I clicked on the application button. I watched this video, and I remembered Eco Challenge when it was happening in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And it had all this old footage, and it got me all hyped up. And at the very end of the application, it said, "This is the race that eats Iron Man for breakfast." And that was my background. I had done 18 Ironmans, and I had raced Kona, the world championships 6 times, and I had coached 250 Ironman athletes. I was Ironman. And it was like Bear Grylls was literally saying that this race was going to eat me for breakfast. And so the minute I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to go find a whole bunch of other Ironman athletes, and we have to form a team, and we have to go see if it will eat us for breakfast. And we really thought it was going to eat us for breakfast. And honestly, it did eat us for breakfast quite a few times. So yeah, I picked my team by finding other Ironman athletes that I thought might have a fighting chance at getting through a race where there's 7 sports in it that they don't know how to do. So my boys all had to learn 7 additional sports. And we had to cram. It was like cramming for a test. We had to cram for Eco Challenge. So we were really proud when we all were able to make it to the finish line.
Awesome.
Ooh,
go ahead.
I just saw one that said, when you were in Fiji, did you see any sea urchins or animals? We paddled over huge, extensive coral reefs. I never put my head in to like see if there were any urchins. But there had to have been urchins down there. The funny thing in Fiji is they don't have really wild animals on the islands, but there were lots of horses and lots of dogs and lots of cows. And their horses, they put leashes on them and tie them to trees. And so sometimes the horses would wander out into the road, and you would be riding your mountain bike down some really crazy, scary hill, and there would be a horse leash and a horse in the road that would almost like clothesline you. So you had to be really careful for all the horses on leashes in Fiji.
Awesome. We have a question. Would you please review your suggestions for keeping your mental toughness one more time before we sign off? I think somebody needs to go a little early.
Yes. So like my 3 points, is that? Yeah. Okay. So the one we just talked about is toughness comes from enoughness. Okay. The other one was how is the bad good for you? And then my third one is find a thought that you believe that works. Our insides dictate our outsides.
Awesome. I have a few more questions in the question log, but I want to hear from girls. So if you want to raise your hand, if you can find that feature, I can then allow you to talk. It looks like Jocelyn has had her hand up for a while. I'm not sure if she still has a question. But Jocelyn, did you have a question? You are still muted, but you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like.
Bottom left corner.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you. If you do have a question, we will come back. Micaiah?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Micaiah. If you do the challenge again, if you were able to choose a place you would want to go to, what would it be?
I think I would like to go to New Zealand. I've heard it's really pretty there, and I think there's a lot of other adventure racers there, and the team who won Eco Challenge Fiji was from New Zealand. And so I feel like if we did it in New Zealand, they would like help us take it to all the really amazing, crazy places. So I think that's the next place I would like to adventure race in.
Oh, cool.
I love it. Great question.
Awesome. All right. We have, I'm not even going to try. I allowed you to speak. What are your names?
Hi, my name is Zainab, and my sister Fatima is here.
Hi,
Zainab. Hi, Sonia. Our question for you was, how many races have you been through, and who were your teammates for every race?
Every race ever. So I've only done one adventure race, and it was World's Toughest Race, Eco Challenge Fiji. And my teammates on that race were James Lawrence, who he goes by the moniker the Iron Cowboy, and that's how we got our team name, Team Iron Cowboy. I also had Aaron Hopkinson, who was a lovely, sweet young man, and Sean Christensen, and all three of the boys lived in Utah. And I live in California. So that was a little bit wild. I would have to go to Utah to train with the boys, and then they would have to come out to California to train with me. And then as far as Ironmans, I've done 18 Ironmans, but those are all just me. And I've done probably 60 or 70 half Ironmans. I've run 100-mile run races, 50-mile run races, 30-mile run races. I've done a lot of bike races, mountain bike races. What other races? Outrigger canoeing races, stand-up paddleboarding races. But those were all solo.
Awesome. Let's see. Emma, M.
Hello.
Hey, Emma.
My question is, what is your favorite part of the job? Like, what do you like most about it?
Oh, yeah. I think my favorite sport inside of the adventure racing was when we got to climb and rappel the fixed ropes systems. So when we got to go up the waterfall, and there were, probably 100 different ropes, ropes leading to ropes leading to ropes. And so you would put your climbing gear on the rope and you would climb up that rope. And then you would take your gear and you would put it on the next rope and you would climb up that rope. And it was just this every once in a while you could stop and you just look behind you and you would see, all of Fiji out behind you. And here you are hanging on a rope, climbing. I love heights and I love doing really adventurous, adrenaline-y things. So the rope sections where we got to climb up the ropes and then also rappel down them. We got to rappel down a big waterfall in one big crazy rappel. So we got to go wee, kind of like a zip line. That was my favorite sport of the race. But I think my favorite kind of part of the race was running into all the Fijian people, because the Fijian people are the most friendly people on the earth. And I will teach you their word that they say. If any of you know Hawaii, they say aloha. If you go to Hawaii, they say aloha. Well, in Fiji, they say bula, B-U-L-A, bula, but they don't say it once, they say it 3 times. So if you run into a Fijian, they will go, bula, bula, bula. Every Fijian that you run into will say, bula, bula, bula. So the whole 10 days we're going through Fiji, and hundreds of times a day, the Fijians would be up on a hillside, looking at their cows, and they would yell down to us, bula, bula, bula. So the Fijian people, I think, were my favorite part of Eco Challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nyla, do you have a question?
Yes. My question is, what food did you eat, and what would you eat if you had to go somewhere else that you never ever been?
Okay, so I think the question is what I eat in Eco Challenge and what food would I eat if I had to go somewhere else. Did you hear that, Kelly? The second half of her question?
I missed it.
Okay. I felt
where would you go? For example, if you go to New Zealand,
what
food
would you there? Oh, this is such a good question. So in Fiji, it's really hard to get food from other countries into Fiji because they're an island and they don't want any pesticides or any bugs that other countries might bring in. So they don't really let you bring much of anything in. And that made things a little bit tough because we couldn't just bring food from America into Fiji, the stuff that we were familiar with. So we did a lot of shopping at the stores in Fiji, which are not like American stores at all. And we ended up we ate things like ramen noodles, pasta with sauce, rice, eggs, potato chips, Coca-Cola, candy, more candy, to be honest. And every time we would come into a camp where our dude Joe was at, he would make us a really good big meal. And then when we were between camps, which was about 2.5 days, we would eat a lot of candy And we would take like bowls of rice with us sometimes. And then we also had brought like protein drinks from the United States that we would have in between, but no hot food. Oh, and the Fijians sometimes would make us food that we could buy on the side of the road. And so whenever that happened, they would make us like empanadas or sandwiches. We would buy those and eat those. So you kind of just had to figure it out. But there was a lot of candy, to be honest. And then in New Zealand, the food is a lot better. And like they're very into food in New Zealand, and they have access to a lot of different kinds of food compared to Fiji that doesn't have access to a lot of different stuff. So in New Zealand, I feel like we would be like eating like kings and queens. We would have probably better candy. But we would also have like backpacking meals, you know, like dehydrated meals that we could reheat in New Zealand. So we'd probably take a lot of that stuff. Peanut butter. I missed like peanut butter and almond butter. They don't have in Fiji really. So yeah, things like that. I think New Zealand would be a bit more of a healthy race, maybe less candy.
Thank you.
You betcha, girl.
Sometimes you need that sugar and candy for energy or just some emotional support.
When you're racing really hard all day, 24 hours a day, you actually like, it doesn't matter what you eat, you can't eat enough. So pretty much anything we could get down and eat was, our body was just gonna like eat it right up. So we didn't have to be as strict with what we eat as we usually are in our daily lives to keep it healthy, because our body is just like, whatever it could get, it would eat right away. Yeah.
All right. Kiara, I think that's wrong. Can you tell us your name?
Kiara.
Oh, good.
What year do you want to do that again?
I would do it
The
tomorrow.
race.
I would do it tomorrow. If they said, Sonja, get on an airplane, go to Patagonia for the next race, I would do it tomorrow. I think because of COVID, it's going to be a while before we can get, you know, a whole bunch of teams to fly to one place in the world and do a big race together. So it will probably be like late 2021, maybe a year from now, at least, before we can have another eco challenge if they're able to put another one on, which is kind of sad. But you know what? We just persevere and we find adventures close to home.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Lillian?
What is your most favorite race you ever done?
Oh, Lillian, that's a really hard question. I would say if we take out Eco Challenge Fiji, because obviously that's like so up here, and we look at all of my Ironmans and my triathlons and races that I've done like that, like solo races, I think my favorite race is definitely the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. And that's because when you do the swim part of the Ironman, and Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim and then a 112 mile bike ride and then a 26 mile run, and you do it all without stopping. But the swim in Ironman Hawaii is all over a coral reef, and almost every year the swim has dolphins and turtles. So to be able to start your race swimming over dolphins and turtles, like that makes it my favorite race ever.
Thank you.
Oh, me again. What's another? How much candy do you eat?
Emma, I didn't count the candy because I was too busy racing. But I kept my candy in my fanny pack, and I would say I had like at least a fanny pack full of candy every day.
Okay.
So maybe that much candy?
Okay.
All right, let's see. Delaney, do you have a question for us?
Yes, I do. My question is, how did you get into Ironmans, and what advice would you have for other girls who are looking to get into adventure racing?
Awesome. Okay. So how I got into Ironman was after I had my daughter Annie, I was trying to get back in shape, and I went and found my husband's mountain bike in the garage and started riding it with Annie. And we were having so much fun having adventures that I started pushing her in the jogger and running. And so I was already biking and running, and I didn't know how to swim. I didn't learn how to swim growing up. but I was doing these two sports with Annie. And I thought, well, if I could learn to swim, then maybe I could do a triathlon. And so at 27 years old, I went and took swim lessons, like literally swim lessons with the kids. And I learned to swim so that I could do my first triathlon. And then once I did one, I was like, oh my gosh, that is the most fun I've ever had. I had such a blast doing it that I just went full steam ahead. And so going full steam ahead meant I started training more. I started doing more races. And then I started with the sprint races, and then I would do a little bit longer race, and then the next year a longer race. And so I just over the years worked my way into doing Ironman races as my body was ready, as my family was ready. And then when it comes to girls doing adventure races, girls are doing adventure races. There are some thriving communities of young women who are totally kicking tail doing them. So they are out there, women are out there doing it. And I would say, if you want to get started, it really comes down to finding some other people who are doing them. Adults, preferably, to kind of get you into the sport until you can find some other kids that are doing them. We had 3 kids in Eco Challenge who were 18 years old, and all 3 of them had been doing adventure races most of their life. So they're out there. The races want kids in them. The race that I'm doing this weekend has a huge junior adventure racing contingency. We've got about, I think there's like 60 juniors that are going to be racing this weekend. So you find other people who are in adventure racing and you start. And as a woman, I would say one of the most important things you can do is you can learn how to navigate by map and compass. We need to teach our girls how to navigate by map and compass, and girls need to take an interest in navigating by map and compass, because the girl with the map is the girl who knows where she's going. And so it's really fun to be the girl with the map, because boys don't like to ask for directions, and girls are usually really good with knowing where to go. So that's another thing I would say, Delaney, if you have an interest, then there's a sport called orienteering, and that's literally using map and compass to go on a scavenger hunt. And so you get your map, you get your compass, there's all these little checkpoints, and you get to go on a scavenger hunt using your map and compass. It's a really fun sport, and something that, I love helping more girls, women, ladies get into.
Awesome. So we have a few minutes left. I'm going to try and get through everybody who hasn't been able to ask a question yet. But if you do have to leave, I know it's getting late in some places in the country, depending on where you're at.
East Coast, yeah.
All right, let's see. Daniela, oh, is this Livia?
Yes. So I do have a question. I was wanting to know, what's the toughest person you have ever met?
Oh, gosh. Who's the toughest person? I'm looking at my daughter. That is such a good question. Who's the toughest person I've ever met? Oh, gosh. I mean, I have run into so many tough people through the years. A few come up for me. I will tell this story. Gosh, this one's going to make me cry. There is a woman who raced Ironman Hawaii, and she is a paraplegic. She doesn't have the use of anything from about belly button below of her legs. And she raced Ironman Hawaii one year. So she swam, and then she got on a hand bike, and she did a hand bike for the whole bike. And then she got in her wheelchair, and she did her wheelchair for the whole marathon. And I happened to be standing on the biggest hill of the run course when she came up. And she's an Indian woman. Mindy is her name. Last name starts with a D. I will get it for you. And I watched her come up the biggest hill on the run course, and she could barely get her wheelchair around. And so she had to do little zigzags through the whole hill. And I stood there, and I had finished racing for the day. She was just starting the marathon portion, and I had already been done for about an hour with the race. And I watched her zigzag up that hill. Took her about 20 minutes to do it. And I cried and cheered the whole time. And I still, when I look back into all my racing and I think about the kind of some of the toughest things I've seen with my 2 eyes, I think that one probably trumps all of it. To see a woman who had a dream to do an Ironman and didn't have the use of her legs. And it took her 20 minutes to go, one block. But she finished, and she finished with flying colors. And to be able to witness that and watch her go through the struggle of getting up that hill, and I weeped. I still weep when I think about her. I have it on video, and I go back to it every once in a while when I feel like I just need to remember that I need to suck it up.
Thank you.
Betcha, girl.
All right, Cannonball.
Cannonball.
Did you sleep in a tent?
No, I wish. When we were in our camps, we had a tent that we would sleep in, but all the rest of the time, here is what I would do. Do you know what an emergency blanket is? It's basically like a giant piece of tin foil. Yeah. So I would put my warm clothes on. I would get my tin foil emergency blanket, and I would crawl inside of it and wrap myself up like a burrito. I would blow up. I had a little inflatable mattress, like a little camping one, but a really ultralight one that was like thin and you could feel everything underneath. I would blow that up, and I would lay down on that. And then I would take a tarp, like a waterproof tarp, and I would wrap myself up like a burrito in that. And that was how I slept so if it rained, which it did a lot, then I wouldn't get wet because of my tarp, because I was like a burrito. And I had a little bit of cushion from the ground with my mat. And then I had that emergency blanket to basically keep my heat inside, so I didn't get too cold at night. But yeah, it was not an enjoyable sleep. I will tell you that.
Not recommended for everyday camping.
There are much better ways to go.
All right, let's see. Oh, I just allowed somebody to talk, but Sanvi,
Yeah.
what's your question?
What did you do besides biking, skiing, and swimming?
Okay, let's see. We had a boat called a Thomacau. Have any of you guys seen Moana, the movie Moana?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, we had one of her boats, like her boat. That's what we started the race on. So it was like a canoe with an outrigger and a sail that we could sail. So we sailed, and we also paddled. We did stand-up paddleboarding, which is like kind of like a surfboard that's inflated, and we stand on it and use a paddle to paddle. We did that. We hiked, we mountain biked, we whitewater rafted. We put together a raft that's called a billy, which is we took a whole bunch of bamboo and we strapped it all together and made a raft. And then we got on that raft and we went 40 kilometers, like 25 miles down a river, standing on that raft, using a piece of bamboo to like propel ourselves. What else did we do? We did ropes. I'm trying to think. We outrigger canoed. We trekked. We cried. Yeah, that's a sport. But yeah, that's all I can think of right now. There were 10 different sports that we did.
Awesome.
That's nice.
It was crazy.
Nice.
Sonia, I have 4 more hands up. Do you have time for 4 more questions? I know we're running a little over.
I say we go for it. I mean, when
Okay.
you're going to get the chance, right?
Fantastic. Thank you. And girls, if you do have to leave, that's fine. I know it's getting late for some girls, but I do want to get questions answered for those of you that have your hands up.
Goodbye to those leaving. It's been great to share this with you.
All right. Looks like Aries maybe has a question.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is,
Uh-oh, did we lose her?
was it hot?
Oh, was it hot? Oh, yes. It was really hot and it was really cold and it was everything in between. But mostly it was either really hot or really cold. It was sometimes in between. When we were closer to the edges of the main island of Fiji, it was hot. And then when we got into the interior, into the middle of the island, we got up high because the island is kind of like a big, like a big mountain. And kind of like a big mountain with the top chopped off. So the middle of the island is called the Highlands. And up there, it was quite cold. And we would have like our jackets on and long pants and everything. But then when we were on the water or more around the edges of the island, it was really hot, like 90 degrees or so with a lot of humidity and like jungly temperatures.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sophia, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Did you ever race during a holiday?
Oh. I've raced on my daughter's birthday. She's reminding me right now. I raced on my daughter's birthday. I think that's the only holiday I've raced on. Usually they don't have races. Oh, wait, I've done a lot of turkey trots. Have you ever done a turkey trot? I've done a turkey trot, and I almost always race on New Year's Day because there's usually some sort of like New Year's run. But other than the turkey trot and the New Year's Day race and Annie's birthday, I think that's all the holiday racing that I've done.
Nice. Looks like there's at least one person who's done a turkey trot before.
Yeah. She did a turkey tournament.
Oh,
That's fun.
nice. All right, Nora, what is your question?
Have you ever won a race?
I've actually won a lot of races, a lot of Ironmans, and a lot of triathlons through the years. I didn't start out winning races. I started out finishing races and having a lot of fun. But what happened was I was having so much fun racing and training that I just kept doing more and more of it. And anytime you do a lot of something, you get really good. So the more and more I enjoyed it, the more I did more of it. And the more I did more of it, the better I got. And so, yeah, at the end of my triathlon, bye, Nora. She's so cute.
Was there ever a piece of that was like a piece of your training that was really hard that you had to put a lot of intentional practice into?
Oh, I didn't know how to swim when I started. I didn't know how to swim. I had to learn from scratch as an adult. And when you learn to swim as a kid, it's a lot easier because your mind is so malleable. But when you become an adult, your mind gets a little more sludgy and it's a little harder to learn new things like swimming. So yeah, every winter I would rededicate myself to swimming, and I would swim all winter, every day, and try to get really good over the winter. And then through the spring and summer and fall, I would have to bring back in the other sports. And so I wouldn't be able to swim as much. But yeah, I think when you're, when you start something so new and you don't know how to do it, it took me a long time to be a competent swimmer. And then a long time after that to be a good swimmer. But I kept working on it because I loved it. I really loved it.
Awesome. We have one more question from Neve. Uh-oh, it looks like, Neve, you have an older version of Zoom that's not letting me let you talk. Can you type your question into the chat and we'll read it right away?
Neve she's a soccer player, and she was the one who did the turkey tournament.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Okay, so then while she's typing her question, we have one more from Arissa. Oh, who also is
old Zooming.
Yeah. So Arissa, if you would also like to type your question in, we will get yours answered as well. So Neve said, would you want to do a great race?
I don't know what a great race is.
I'm not sure either.
I need more clarification.
Can you tell us more about your question?
I love how active all the girls were in the chat. It's really cool.
Oh, a race around the world.
Oh, sign me up. Like, I don't know if this exists, but I would do it in a heartbeat. I mean, think of all the adventure. Think of all the people you would meet and the places that you would get to go. You go, exactly. She's like, you go to all these different places. I would, yes. Annie thinks it's a TV show. Or like The Amazing Race.
Mm-hmm.
That I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, why not? Yeah, I would do all of that.
That's awesome. Is there a place in Alaska that you would like to come to?
So I've kind of made my way. I've been to Alaska quite a bit. Actually, in 2019, so a year ago, I went to Gates of the Arctic National Park. and spent a week backpacking off trail there. I will say I really enjoyed my time when I went to Katmai National Park. I love visiting the national parks. So I think if I came back to Alaska, I would probably be looking at.
You forget it. Who closing this door?
Let's mute.
I muted her. If I came back to Alaska, I'd be looking to go to some of the national parks that I've got to take a bush plane into that don't have any way for you to get into them other than that. And I'd be getting dropped off and be going back country with my map and my compass and spending some time, getting lost and getting found.
Awesome. All right. Arissa's question was, did you ever want to be a professional swimmer?
Not a professional swimmer, no, but I did want to be a professional Ironman triathlete for a little while. The way to do that is you have to qualify for your professional status. And I did that a few times. And so I really contemplated whether I would turn professional as a triathlete. And at that time, I knew I would only have a few more years of kind of professional status because of my age, and decided ultimately that adventure was a little bit more exciting to me than continuing on with just Ironman racing. So that was why I decided not to become a professional triathlete. I knew I would eventually kind of get out of triathlon and move more into adventure racing or having adventures or climbing or mountaineering, other stuff. So yeah, there was a hot minute when I thought maybe being a professional athlete would be my next thing, but I love having adventures too much.
Sometimes it's fun to be a beginner.
Yeah, it's fun to learn new things. And when you think of professional, there's a lot of ways to make a living in outdoor sports. So when we think of a professional athlete, there are people who guide other people on adventures. Those are professional athletes, they're professional guides. So there's lots of ways to kind of make money and keep funding all the adventure that you want to do.
Awesome. So I think that's all of the hands. Are there any last things that you want to share with the girls before we wrap up for today?
Oh my gosh. I almost lost my battery. I just want to thank the girls for coming on and listening to my stories and engaging on the chat. And I think the last thing I just would want to impart on them is I am not special in any way, shape, or form. I don't have any sort of special talents, athletic talents, or any of that. I am as normal as they come. And so I want you to think about that when you're dreaming your own dreams. And if they involve the outdoors and adventure, you can absolutely move your way into those environments. Ask for help. It's all out there. Reach out to me. I will help you. But I just want the girls to know I'm as normal as they come. And it's just the decisions that we make to get outside and have fun that create these opportunities.
That's amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for talking with us tonight and sharing your stories. It was really amazing.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. And thanks, ladies, for showing up and listening.
Awesome. All right.
I'm waving at all of you saying goodbye.
So many thanks.